There are people who have woken up this morning, walked out their door in southern Illinois, or even areas around the St. Louis area, but especially southern Illinois, and they've said they've never felt heat like this in their life. They might be right. They could very well be right. It's not just they have a bad memory, but the humidity. It's especially the humidity is reaching levels that perhaps have not been seen since 1995. We are seeing dew points in the 80s throughout Illinois. Southern portions of Illinois have dew points in the low 80s. Dew points went up to 78 degrees at least in the St. Louis area. That's at the official reporting station at the hour. The dew point was 78 degrees. You know, that was just at one particular hour at Lambert International Airport. Dew points probably have reached 80 in certain parts of the St. Louis area today. This is really, really magnificent stuff. This is happening due to what we believe is the high moisture level in the soil. You know, the dew points are going to be dropping over the next couple of days, probably in response to the drying out of the soil. For right now, the humidity is really at levels that almost are only seen in the Persian Gulf. We have cities, you know, a dew point of 82 degrees in certain parts of Illinois. This is stuff that does not even occur on the Gulf Coast. Dew points of that level make temperatures feel 24 degrees warmer than they actually are. And people must realize that these heat index charts, some people think they're underrated, but some people think they're overrated, but a lot of people think they're underrated. These heat index charts really tell you what the temperature feels like. And with the humidity, for many people, the temperatures feel even hotter than what these charts say. Temperatures this afternoon in the St. Louis area, we have a very unique combination happening in the St. Louis area, and it's not heat and humidity. Heat and humidity is the classic St. Louis area, but it's the intense heat and the intense humidity that's something that does not even occur in the St. Louis area. It rarely occurs, really, probably not even in the Dust Bowl years. If we hit 100 degrees in the St. Louis area today, and if the dew point did hit 80 degrees, even if, we already had a dew point of 78, in the Celsius system, we've had dew points of 25 degrees Celsius or higher this morning. A dew point of 25 degrees Celsius is 77 degrees Fahrenheit. We've already seen extremely humid air. If we do hit 100 degrees this afternoon, it's very possible the last time we've seen this type of heat and humidity together was back in July of 1995. It's been a long time. This is something that does not usually develop here in the Midwest. The more classic air mass is something like mid-90s with dew points in the mid-70s, not something like 100 degrees and dew points in the upper 70s or even the low 80s. That's number one. The number one excitement here, probably for the whole country, is what's occurring right now over in the Missouri, southern Illinois. But here's number two. This heat is capable of producing energy like we've never seen before. Therefore, any thunderstorms that develop, thunderstorms tend to form, it's called the ring of fire. Thunderstorms form right around the air mass. Right around the air mass, there's a ring. It's called the ring of fire. That's where we have continuous thunderstorm development. That's also where the front is. The amount of energy that's being put into this front, the energy that is potentially that these thunderstorms could tap into is really enormous, totally enormous. It's not just temperature, which is a form of energy, it's also dew point. And realize this, dew point's not just a form of energy, it's actual water vapor. The humidity, it's very, very humid. The air mass is humid. So we have the torrential downpour threat. But even more than that, just in terms of energy, it's a real powerhouse. Here's another thing to add to the equation, is that north of the front, if you look at where this front is, look at where the ring of fire is. The front right now is just south of Chicago. That means areas north of the front are receiving a wind right off of Lake Michigan. The water temperatures in the 50s. We're only in the month of June. The fact that we're in the month of June is a major variable in terms of the strength of these thunderstorms. And this is the reason why. Had this hot and humid air mass occurred in the month of July, this would still be something phenomenal. all, it would still be the first time since 1995 that we are seeing dew points combined with this type of heat, triple-digit heat and dew points in the upper 70s. It could very well be this is the first time since 1995, even if this would be occurring in July, of course. But the water temperatures on Lake Michigan would be warmer. That means the contrast in temperatures between north of the front and south of the front would not be as intense as they are right now. So we have really an ideal environment for very intense thunderstorms to develop. The National Weather Service has informed us that there also is potential for tornadoes, for some brief tornadoes right around this area. Now, what's interesting, however, is that when you look at the computer models, you'll see tremendous thunderstorms over in Minnesota, and you'll see these tremendous storms, probably some are even severe. They're moving into central Wisconsin. So there's a major question over here. Shouldn't the storms be forming along the front? That front is south of Chicago. Why are the thunderstorms to the north of Chicago? So we have heat and humidity all around the Chicago area, to the north of the Chicago area as well. It's a good question. Why are the thunderstorms to the north? In fact, these storms were supposed to disappear. Yesterday, meteorologists thought that that thunderstorm complex would disappear overnight, but it never did. So now we're going to have something very interesting that could be developing later on this afternoon. There's two things that could be developing. Number one, when that ring of fire, when that warm front pushes right through the Chicago area, there could be extremely strong thunderstorms associated with that front. Number two, this little mesoscale development that occurred in Minnesota that survived the night and is now moving into central Wisconsin today, if that should coincide, if that should collide with the front, so then we're going to have a true powerhouse later on in the afternoon. Right now, we have the higher resolution computer models picking up on thunderstorm development within the Chicago area. Probably around 3:30 p.m. You need to have a very high resolution computer model to be able to forecast thunderstorms well, to really get the timing right. So the European computer model is not a high resolution model, unfortunately. It's an extremely accurate model, but it's not too good when it comes to thunderstorms, especially this, close in proximity, because it's just not high enough resolution. We can look at that model, however, to determine exactly when the front's going to move through. It seems like somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock. Although the European computer model does not show thunderstorms, it does show a front moving through the Chicago area, a warm front between 3 and 4 o'clock. We have the other models, the North American mesoscale model, the HRR model. We have those models forecasting slightly different times, but one of them saying thunderstorms moving in between 2 and 3, the other one between 3 and 4. So I would say let's go ahead and take the model which is saying between 3 and 4, maybe 3:30, 3:45 p.m., because it coincides so well with when that front is moving through according to the European computer model. Now there's a lot of interesting stuff that could be happening this evening. The front might be going back and forth depending on where the thunderstorm development is. There could be another complex of thunderstorms that moves through at the very end, perhaps at around 8 p.m. So we could see one strong thunderstorm, a powerhouse storm, 3:30, 3:45 p.m., but it's very difficult to put an exact time, but I'm doing it anyways, 3:30, 3:45 p.m. Another one right around 8 o'clock p.m. Again, it's very difficult to put an exact time. It's possible, could be 9 o'clock p.m. The National Weather Service thinks 8 o'clock is at the end, the very end, but I did see one model showing 9 o'clock p.m. But let's say it's 8 o'clock p.m. We have 3:30, 3:45 p.m. We have another model, 2:30, 2:45. But the 3:30, 3:45 p.m., again, that coincides well with, according to what the European computer model is saying in regards to the front. But either way, so let's say 3:30, 3:45 p.m., something like that, somewhere between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock p.m., or 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m., if you really want to cover all your bases for here in the West Rogers Park area. When I say West Rogers Park, so what that really means is I'm referring to Mount Trashmore, which is in Skokie. That's really the place you're going to get the weather observations. There's a place over there. There's a weather station there, and there are forecasts for that area. Computer models are picking up that area in particular, and that's going to be the spot which is going to show the most accurate weather for the West Rogers Park area. It's not West Ridge Lincolnwood. The West Ridge Lincolnwood, although if you type in an address from West Rogers Park, you'll be taken over to that weather station, that's not going to be as accurate as the Skokie one, which is in Mount Trashmore, which is on Oakton and right around Oakton. All right, so now we have those two exciting things happening. Number one is the tremendous heat and humidity, the combination of the two, the amount of energy that's putting into this atmosphere. We have that thunderstorm complex that survived overnight last night and is continuing to move and even intensify today. And we have probably the development of another thunderstorm complex later on this afternoon with enormous amounts of energy as we go through the day. We have that tornado potential that the National Weather Service informs us about. There's also the damaging wind threat. The damaging winds, I think that's going to be the main threat over here. The damaging winds that's where the energy is going to be put into the damaging winds. Therefore, almost always it seems in this area, we usually say the damaging wind threat is up to 60 miles per hour. Not this time around. It's not even 70 miles per hour. We're well past that. Damaging wind potential, 80 mile per hour wind gust is possible. When you look at the weather models again, you don't see thunderstorms moving through the West Rogers Park area. You don't really see it. It's all in Wisconsin. However, that we don't have computer models that can forecast thunderstorms accurately. So the people in Wisconsin, there really is a higher chance for tornadoes over there. That's number one. The main chance for tornadoes is going to be in Wisconsin. That's where the higher risk for severe weather is. It's in Wisconsin. There's not much doubt about Wisconsin. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, going all the way from west Wisconsin to east Wisconsin. But Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Cincinnati, Ohio, by the way, we're talking about 3 o'clock this afternoon, probably about 3:30 their time. There is a thunderstorm complex moving over that area around 3:30 their time, 2:30 Chicago time. But Milwaukee, Wisconsin, really, it's clear that the Milwaukee area is going to have a thunderstorm complex moving over that region for this afternoon and this evening, and there could be some tornadoes, there could be some severe weather. That's when you really get that thunderstorm complex from Minnesota. It's going to collide with that warm front right over southern Wisconsin in the Milwaukee area this evening, late this afternoon, and early this evening. Now, however, there could be very strong storms in the Chicago area as well. As we mentioned, one perhaps around 3:30, 3:45, another around 8 o'clock. Okay, but the highest chances are in southern Wisconsin. Now, we talk about the heat and humidity for here in the Chicago area. Behind this front, it's really like a blast of heat. This is unusual. Usually, we have something, terminology that we call an Arctic blast. A blast of Arctic air. Temperatures drop sharply, and it feels just like a blast of Arctic air, like opening up a freezer for just a second and letting out a blast of extremely cold air. By warm fronts, it's unusual. We don't get stuff like that. But this is a blast of brutal heat, just a brutal heat of steam coming in just from Missouri and Illinois. You can't even blame the Gulf of Mexico 100%. The Gulf of Mexico, sure, it's adding a lot of humidity to the air, but the dew points are not 80 degrees on the Gulf Coast. The dew points only go up into the low 80s once the winds go over all of the moisture, all of the soil in Arkansas, Tennessee, and then you hit southern Missouri, Illinois. Those areas, you start to get dew points in the low 80s. That's when the humidity really starts to skyrocket for today. We're going to see a drop in the humidity by tomorrow. This blast of heat and humidity comes into the Chicago area. We're going to see temperatures range from the low 90s to 100 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures right along the lake will range from the low to upper 90s. Temperatures further inland, like West Rogers Park, will have temperatures ranging from the mid-90s to the upper 90s, possibly near 100 degrees. We'll have high temperatures at O'Hare Airport, also mid-90s to near 100 degrees, and at Midway, also mid-90s to near 100 degrees. You go down to the St. Louis area, high temperatures are forecasted to hit triple-digit levels today. Tomorrow, the high-pressure ridge responsible for these potent high-pressure ridge. The word potent is not used on high-pressure systems. It's used on storm systems. But in this case, the ridge is so strong, it's a potent high-pressure ridge that is producing this heat. That the potency starts to break down a little bit tomorrow. So temperatures you would think would be a little bit cooler tomorrow in the St. Louis area, but they're not. The reason why they're not is because the dew points are going to be going down. Once the dew points go down, the sun becomes more efficient at heating things up. Those temperatures are going to go right back up into the triple-digit level. The top forecasters continue to forecast triple-digit heat on Wednesday, and we even have top-notch forecasters continuing this into Thursday for the St. Louis area. We're talking about different cities over here. We spoke about the thunderstorms in Milwaukee. We briefly mentioned Cincinnati and Chicago and St. Louis. The heat for Chicago really comes in later today for areas south of Interstate 80 and for tomorrow and Wednesday as well. But the humidity is going to be down on Wednesday for both Chicago and St. Louis. The heat continues in the St. Louis area on Wednesday and even on Thursday. Just the temperatures might be a little bit down. But let's just go over to St. Louis now because we have a very close to a historical event happening over there, very close to being unprecedented. Realize it's extremely hard to have anything unprecedented when it comes to heat in the St. Louis area because of the Dust Bowl years, also because of the summer of 1901. That summer was just so hot. The records are just so high. The bar is so high for the heat in St. Louis. You go and then comes the Dust Bowl years, 1934, 1935, and then 1936. Really, that's everywhere. 1936, the winter was as cold as can be, but the summer, that's the hottest summer on record. If you measure the temperatures in the summer according to how you measure it, in many categories, 1936 will still remain the hottest summer, not just for St. Louis, but many states here in the Midwest. So the bar is very, very high in the St. Louis area. It's going to be close to impossible to even tie some of these records, especially when you're looking at significant events like the number of consecutive days above 90 degrees, the number of consecutive days above 100 degrees on any particular day, as long as it's not the month of July. The month of July, the bar is so high for each and every day. It's difficult to break any record except for the minimum temperatures due to the urban heat island effect. You could break the warmest minimum for the day. That is possible. In the month of June, it's possible to break records for the date, and that's what we're going to be doing for today and perhaps tomorrow for the St. Louis area. But let's go back and speak about the most significant event over here in the St. Louis area that might be happening this week. That's 4 consecutive days of temperatures at 100 degrees or higher in the month of June. We're not even at June 21st yet. 4 consecutive days. The last time this has happened was 1954. There were 4 consecutive days in the month of June. The record for consecutive days of 100 degrees or higher is 13 days. That was set in 1936, but that occurred in August. The second most occurred in the year 2012 with 10. 2012 was also a very hot summer. 10 consecutive days in 2012. The first 3 of those 10 occurred in June. So 2012, we had 3 consecutive days in June. This week, if the 4 consecutive days of 100 degrees or higher do materialize, so the last time we had that was 1954. The record is 5. The 1952 is the record for the St. Louis area, 5 consecutive days of temperatures at 100 degrees or higher. There's an enormous difference, however, between then and now. Back then there was a drought, and now there's not. That makes all the difference in the world, because who would have ever thought that temperatures could hit 100 degrees in the month of June with dew points just about 80 degrees? Who would have ever thought that? The dew points are so high. How is the sun? The sun should lose its efficiency at heating things up to the triple-digit level. That's what one would think, especially in the month of June. How did the dew points even get so high in the month of June? The corn crop where's the corn crop holding right now? People blame 80-degree dew points in Iowa. That occurs in Iowa. They blame it on the corn crop. That's stuff that happens in the month of July. I don't even know if we have a corn crop where these 80-degree dew points are occurring. These are things that need to be looked into. Is really for real, where is all this moisture coming from? How are the dew points getting to be so high? Anyways, this is the real exciting event that we have here. The most exciting is the fact that we might be seeing 4 consecutive days of temperatures of 100 degrees or higher with high dew points as well. For today, in the St. Louis area, we might be seeing the highest heat index ever recorded for the month of June ever for the St. Louis area for today. Afternoon high expected to be 100 degrees. The heat indices well into the 100 teens. Heat indices well into the 100 teens. Remember, 9 o'clock this morning, the temperature was 89 degrees. The dew point was 78 degrees. The heat index was 103 degrees. The wind speeds, if the winds actually are 10 miles per hour, temperatures are going to feel a couple degrees cooler than what the heat index says it's going to feel. The heat index chart was made for winds of 5.6 miles per hour. The winds are expected to be double that. If they actually are double that, we're going to see that has about a 2 degree. That means the winds are about 6 miles per hour stronger than what the chart was made for. And a 6 mile per hour wind speed, the evaporative cooling effect is 2. It's 2 degrees. So you would subtract 2 degrees from that. But here's another thing to keep in mind, and I don't know how to figure this one out, is that when temperatures are higher than 95 degrees, the temperature, not the heat index, if the temperature is higher than what the skin surface temperature is, the wind actually makes conditions feel hotter out. If it's super humid like it is today, that's not going to occur until it's 96, 97, or perhaps 98 degrees. But today it's even going to be 98. So the winds are going to make it feel hotter even without the humidity. How that all factors in together, what it's all going to feel like all together when all is said and done, that's something that remains a mystery, but it's truly going to be hot. The dew points are going to be so much lower tomorrow that it might even feel like a cold front has gone through, despite the continuation of triple-digit heat. I think if the temperature only hits 99 degrees in St. Louis, that is certainly understandable with this type of humidity, but there's plenty of triple-digit forecasts. Thank you for listening. I wish everyone a great day. Stay safe and enjoy the weather.